Shalom, everybody. It's been a little minute, but I just wanted to come and talk. Unscripted, just speaking whatever comes to my mind. I ain't got nothing planned. Just want to have some open dialogue with you guys. I do want to hit on, lately I've been doing a lot of presentations with this new program called Doodly. That's right, yeah. And man, I love it. I'm still learning how to work it. But if you've seen my last two videos, one of the flat earth and the other one of Israel, these two right here, you see like that I'm starting to get the hang of things. Um, but yeah, so I'll continue to do presentations with those as well as do my normal videos, and Flow 5 Friday will be back. As you can see in the background, I finally got the majority of my studio equipment. Got my speakers, my mic, my interface. I have the soundproof foam that I need to put up once I figure out a final location for where I'm gonna put my computer in the computer desk. But uh, yeah, Flow 5 Fridays will come back, and then I'll get down to business when it comes to recording. I want to do this next album. I got a lot of material that I've written that I just haven't had the chance to record. But now I have a studio in my crib, so I can record whenever, and I don't have to wait for somebody else and be on somebody else's time. So, with that out the way, man, yo, I gotta give a shout out to my brother, man, Lucas Cameron, bro. Like, when I tell you this brother is righteous, and he got such a humble spirit, like talking to him was like talking to just like that your childhood friend who you ain't heard from in about 20 years. You know what I mean? Like I say, he's really humble, and he has a lot of knowledge, And it's funny, I met him through another one of my good friends, and I realized who he was because I had watched his videos before, and I've seen some of the things he's done, and some of the topics he's covered and stuff like that. But this brother really, he got some good information. He's very talented and hardworking, and I'm just glad to call him brother. On one of his most recent videos, he did a shout out to me, and he actually linked one of the videos that I did on one of my previous presentations on the Israel topic, the Israel debate, so to speak. And I really appreciated that. It's funny, because you know how people, when they give a shout out, they say subscribe to their channel. Actually, people subscribe to my channel because of it, so that's kind of cool. I appreciate that. Me and him had some really good conversations, and I'm just glad that I got him in my circle now. You know what I mean? Like, I can reach out to him and talk to him about different things and question some different things, and we can get into it. Me and my brother Joel, he's the mutual friend whom I met Lucas through. We got some ideas floating around about some different segments we want to do, and some presentations and discussions that we want to have in the future, and it's gonna be dope because the just the body of work for each individual person is so extensive, and when you bring all of those minds together and all of the research that goes behind each individual, and you put them together in one big melting pot, it's going to be some really good discussions. So stay tuned for that. Let's see. Like I said, I didn't come in here with anything particular in mind to talk about. Okay. So I want to talk about doctrine. I want to talk about influence. Doctrine and influence. So if you are following a specific doctrine, that's completely fine. Okay. I would just say take a step back and look at it objectively before making your final decision to give it your 100% commitment. And I say that because a lot of times We find ourselves in different doctrines, and the information that's being presented to us has already been altered, has already been formulated to fit a certain bias, a certain stereotype. And when we get this information, we looking at the information like new information, like this is a good source to support whatever this doctrine is. But until you take a step back and actually look at that doctrine and the information, the supporting information from a different viewpoint, you won't be able to see the flaws that's in it if it has flaws. I've noticed that people get caught up in these doctrines and it's not proven, and when they're called to defend it or explain it, it's like they dip into the same pool of scriptures, the same pool of information as everybody else. And it only makes sense to them and people that have a like-minded understanding as them. I did a post, I don't know how long ago it was, maybe a year ago, maybe a little less than a year. But I said, if your doctrine only makes sense to you and those who are in your group or who are like-minded and believe the same thing as you, then it's a false doctrine. Because one thing we've learned is that truth stands on its own. Truth doesn't need any followers. Truth doesn't need any, support. It stands on its own. Truth is truth. It's undeniable truth. So if what you believe is only shared, or not even is it only shared, if it only makes sense when you can speak it to somebody who's like-minded, who's in the same group as you, it's probably not right. It's probably not right. And as soon as you step outside that bubble of influence of the individuals that are like-minded with you, you find yourself alone and exposed when somebody else with a competent mind and understanding of the scriptures questions the things that you say you know. I've seen it happen. I've been involved in it happening. When I first came into the truth, the group of people that reached out to me initially were from GOCC, and they was, speaking all of these things like, yo, this is the information I got. Boom, boom, boom. I'm like, bet. I'm reading information. And I'm like, yeah, this right, this work. But then I would get into the conversations and these debates, and I would find myself pulling into the same pool of information as the people who gave me the information, right? And it didn't make sense why. It made sense when myself and the GOCC people would have conversations, in discussions. Oh yeah, it make 100% sense. But when I'm not around them, it doesn't make sense. And I'm like, this not right. Like, why? So I questioned it. I took a step back. I looked at the whole GOCC doctrine, the whole GOCC way, and I'm like, this isn't scriptural. This doesn't make sense. And what really did it for me is when I actually understood and got an understanding of what a precept was. A lot of camps and Hebrew Israelite groups, they misuse what a precept is. A precept isn't just two verses that go together. A precept is an instruction or a law given by the Most High that supports another instruction or a law given by the Most High. So it's a reiteration of said law or of said instruction. That's not two verses that go together. That's a cross-reference. That's not a precept. And so you have these doctrines that are pulling these random scriptures from all over the Bible and other sources of scripture, and then they're like, oh yeah, this goes together. That's why what I'm saying is right. And it has nothing to do with each other. Nothing to do with each other. That's why the information that I'm putting out in regards to Israel is so profound to me, is because every single scripture that I touch in the Old Testament are precepts. They're all instructions or laws from the Most High that are saying the exact same thing. They're just reiterating and further supporting the previous verse that I read. And that's why I'm like, yo, truth is, it stands on its own. I don't need anybody else in the Hebrew Israelite community to agree with me on what I believe in regards to Israel. They can continue either thinking that black, Native American, and Hispanic people are the Israelites or not. But I don't need their support to know what the scriptures say, because my allegiance and my loyalty isn't to these doctrines, or isn't to these groups, or isn't to Facebook followers or YouTube subscribers. It's to the Most High by following His word. And what His word says goes, regardless of how I personally feel about it. It's not because I'm trying to be an ambassador to the Gentiles, or I'm trying to be friends with the white man. No, it's not none of that. It's the fact that I'm following the scriptures. So no amount of hate doctrine, no amount of justification that you try to pull out of the scriptures, grabbing these random verses and putting them together and say they're precepts, can amount to the deception that's been given to the Hebrew Israelite community in regards to that aspect. So once I actually finally got that way to take a step back, looking at the GOCC doctrine, I was like, yo, that's I can't rock with that. You know, I mean, it ended some friendships and everything like that, but I know that people are in your life for a reason. Sometimes they're meant to be there for a short amount of time. Sometimes they're meant to be there a long period of time. And sometimes they're permanent. But I take everything as a learning experience, and I continue to build and move on with a vigor for the Most High, period. That's the main goal about everything that I do. That's the main goal about everything that I say. The reason why I go so hard for flat earth is because it's scriptural. And people say, oh, well, why does it matter about flat earth, right? That was a good segue into flat earth, right? So they say, why does it even matter if the earth's flat earth is round? And I'm like, the Most High created mankind, right? And He created and put in place certain ordinances and instructions. And since He put those things in place, and since He created those things are sacred. The Most High's creation is sacred. He created us in His image. We're sacred. The Most High lives and dwells within us. That's why we're supposed to keep our bodies clean, because they're temples for Him in which He can dwell in. We're sacred. Everything He creates is sacred. So if He went and took all of this time to create the earth, it's not only blasphemy, but it's just flat out disrespectful to call His creation something that is not. He didn't make it a ball. Everything in scripture points to the flat earth, period, on a scriptural basis. He said He created a firmament, which is a dome. He said that there's 4 corners in the earth. That's not a ball. There's many scriptures. He said the earth can't move. So how are we on a spinning ball, spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, going around the sun at however many miles per hour? That's trash. So that's why I go hard for the flat earth. That's why I speak on the things I speak on. That's why I share the memes that I do, or create the memes that I do. It's to cause you to think. I'm just here to make you think, because if I can spark thought within you, maybe it'll drive you or encourage you to ask questions, because it all starts with asking questions. Question everything. Question everything, because if you don't, you are literally cutting yourself off at the knees, because you're just adopting everything that's been told to you in your entire life. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I go hard for the flat earth. The Most High created a specific way. He created it with dimensions. Just like he goes into detail about how the temple in the Old Testament should have been created, right? How many cubits, the design, how he wants this to look, everything like that. He formulated the earth like that in a specific way. And for us in our arrogance, thinking that we're smarter than we are, to try to change the narrative for manipulation of the masses, of the public, is wrong. It's wrong. And I ain't even getting into the scientific, rational, secular aspect of it, because flat earth makes sense no matter how you look at it. If you go to the scriptures, you see flat earth. If you look at it with your own eyes, you see flat earth. If you do the research in the scientific explanations, you see flat earth, period. The only time you see a ball is when you're letting the manipulation and the programming just dictate what you say. We were told as kids that the earth is a ball. So in our minds, the earth is a ball. You got to figure out how to get around that and look at the case of the flat earth objectively. Because if you look at the evidence, it's plain as day. Plain as day. NASA has already said that we have never left low Earth orbit. That's the atmosphere. So how can we have been to the moon? How can we have established satellites in outer space to monitor the Earth or to do cell phone towers? It makes no sense. And all they do is they put out a lie, and then they surround that lie with other lies to support it, to try to cover up the holes that's in that original lie. And when it's exposed, they change the narrative and put out another lie, and then surround that lie with smaller lies to fill in the holes. It just makes no sense. But we as the public have already adopted the globe model. So everything that NASA says, we just take, oh, yeah, NASA said it, so it got to be true. These scientists said it, so they got to be true. My main issue with globers, or however y'all want to call them, is you guys don't think for yourselves. You don't think for yourselves. Even the intelligent and educated people, you don't think for yourselves. You take the globe model, which they gave you, and then you build everything off of that, right? So if you're an average Joe with no education, no scientific knowledge or background, you take that the earth is round. The earth is a ball. Everything you say points to the earth being a ball. No, look at it objectively. Weigh the options, weigh your evidence, do your own research, not just try to basically prove a ball earth to substantiate your claims. And it's worse when you get people with some knowledge, with some education, like scientists, because they're so deep down the rabbit hole that they believe everything that they're saying, even though it's not proven. But they put it out like it's proven, and it makes no sense. It makes no sense. So scientist says the earth is however long in diameter, right? The diameter of a sphere, the diameter of a circle. And they said by using Pythagorean's theorem, this is how we can calculate how much curvature the earth has. So based off of the equation that they came up with, and they put it out to the public, and this is what's being taught in schools. This is what is being made law, scientific law in the scientific community, and all of this, right? And then you debunk it with a simple test. A simple test. 2 points, point A, point B. The distance between the 2 points dictates how much curvature it is between them, right? When a boat goes over the horizon and it disappears, it's supposedly going over the curvature. That's wrong. You increase the magnification because your eyes have limits. That's why it disappears. Your eyes can't see that far. If you put some binoculars on or a telescope, you look out, no matter how far away that boat goes, that full boat comes back into view. Debunks the curvature, period. Now, when you say that to somebody who got a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of explanation, then they want to throw all of these scientific jargon into the mix and to substantiate their original substantiated claim. But no, let's not talk about, I asked you about curvature. I'm not talking about space. I'm not talking about why the sky does this on a particular day. I'm not talking about any other thing. Let's talk about curvature right now. But no, they'll dip into all of these other things, add in scientific jargon to make themselves seem more smarter than they are, to throw you off, and they avoid the whole conversation, period. You know what I'm saying? Like, and this is the things that I'm talking about. And these are people who have been employed by the government, worked on all these top secret projects and different things like that. You can't even answer a simple question. A simple question. And then the main thing that they do to try to discredit flat earthers, because they call being a flat earther a conspiracy, is they make these I don't even know the word I'm thinking of, but they basically try to reduce the flat earth model to a joke and then explain it incorrectly to get everybody who's already a glober to agree with them, to just discredit the whole argument of the flat earth. I've seen a picture where they put a lamp to simulate the sun and then a little bitty disc and put it in the way of the sun, and then there was a skinny little shadow, and they said, explain this, flat earth. And that's not how it is, because the earth isn't outside. I mean, the sun isn't outside of the earth. First off, the earth isn't a disc. It's a flat mass of land, right? And it's flat on the top. And you have your terrain and everything on the top. And then there's the dome. The sun is within the dome. So that whole explanation, that whole layout is incorrect. But they do it to discredit us, make us sound stupid. And more people just bite into it, and they, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to be honest. When I first heard of the flat earth, I laughed at it. I'm like, this sounds dumb. This sounds dumb. But one thing I've always done is I've always looked into things for myself. I might have had a ignorant reaction to it. But once I looked at the evidence, I was like, there's no way that this can't be correct. There's no way. And another thing is, another thing with why flat earthers have so much trouble is flat earthers have found something amazing. We've learned about the actual shape and makeup of the earth. So now we have to relearn everything we've learned as an explanation of everything that we've ever. Why does it rain? Why does this happen? Why does that happen? Why does this look like this? Why does this look like that? We have to learn everything from scratch all over again. So we're still learning. We're still learning. There's been enough evidence to prove the flat earth, and there's been enough evidence to prove certain things and why they happen, right? But when you go up against the globe, they're like, well, how do you know what the flat earth looks like if you've never seen a picture of it? Like a legitimate picture. And that's a very agitating question, right? Because you cannot get past the dome of the firmament. And no one knows how far out the Antarctic wall goes. It could go on forever. Because it didn't say that the Most High created the heavens and the earth and the galaxies. It said the heavens and the earth. Period. That's it. So you have the heavens and the earth. The earth is the center of everything. The earth is the center of the universe. So who knows how far the wall goes out? There's theories about there may be other land masses outside of the ice wall. There's theories that it just goes on forever. There's different theories. But the fact that we can't leave the firmament, it's impossible to take a full picture of how the earth looks. You just got to understand that it's not meant for you to take a picture of the entire earth. Period. You can go up high as you can. I think there's a picture of a high altitude balloon at like 122,000 feet. And it clearly shows there's no curve, no no arched horizon. It's flat, but it looks like it goes on forever, infinity. Like it's a never ending mass of land and structure. But since you can't answer that question, they use that to discredit the entire argument. But yet, when science can't prove a specific theory or a hypothesis or a question that we asked, they're like, oh well, we can, due to our research and our calculations, we can assume that this is what it is, and that's not questioned. But when a flat earther says that they can assume something, now all of a sudden that flat earth credibility has been shot. It's out the window. Because the thing about being a flat earther, you don't have to prove something that's already believed. You now have to prove something that's disproving what the norm already is. Right? So if you have a person that doesn't believe anything, and this is some of the stuff I'll be talking about when it comes to religion and theology, right? I would prefer to have a conversation with an atheist in regards to the scriptures and their accuracy and their legitimacy, and why there is a higher power, the Most High, as opposed to speaking to a Christian who's been in the church for 20 years, who thinks that they know what they're talking about. Because on one end, I'm just presenting a case, and that person can take it or leave it, but they can look at it for themselves. I don't have to fight and dig through false doctrines. I don't have to fight and dig through lies, conspiracies, programming for that person. It's like a clean slate. It's like a newborn baby who just wants knowledge. On the other hand, if you're dealing with somebody who's been in the church for 20 years, you got to get that 20 years of programming and false doctrines and stuff out of their head to be able to even look at the scriptures with fresh eyes. That's so hard to do. People are set in their ways. Sometimes, the old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That got some weight to it, okay? That's the reason why I find certain arguments pointless, right? I don't mind a debate in certain aspects, right? Sometimes debates are needed, right? But when you get to someone whose sole purpose within the debate is to prove you wrong, that debate it's lost its credibility, because there's not a goal to obtain knowledge. The goal is to disprove the other individual. So I've talked to people who believe the earth is round and a ball, but their stance with the discussion wasn't to just say I'm crazy and prove my thing wrong. They literally wanted to examine both stories, weigh the options, do their own research, and get their own understanding. So we'll continue this conversation in the next video. Till then, you guys be smooth.